leaders in Europe are younger European prime ministers. I will single out society in Montenegro, which I think is sort of authoritarian regime where everything the prime minister will address some of those issues in the dialogue between states. The European Commissioner for Enlargement in Synchronicity, because of a dialogue, the greater challenges further afield of the Euro-Atlantic family. I would like to give the floor to both of them.
Some ideas, and in case of Montenegro, society, making it more transparent, and so on, fighting against class, at this point in time.
Let's really show why indeed a year back, Aki.
So, as a backdrop, I would like to give the floor to both of our distinguished panelists, and then we will open it up. I'll throw it open to the floor, and
it is especially important because it is always a good opportunity to exchange views and rethink some ideas. And in case of Montenegro, it is especially valuable because we are ahead of two major events of this year that concern Montenegro. Chronologically, it is next month's Chicago summit of NATO countries, and in June we hope to commence accession talks with the European Union based on the decision that the European Council made on 9th December last year. There's been already some fine words said in the course of this forum about Montenegro, and I appreciate it very much. I'm grateful for that. I think one cannot emphasize enough the importance of both the NATO and EU enlargement process for the countries such as Montenegro, for the countries of the Western Balkans. And therefore, I'd like to once again point out that from a security point of view, and we're talking about the NATO as first and foremost security integration process, NATO remains guarantor of peace and stability in the Western Balkans. It is important to set the ground for political reforms, for the building of a functional economy, which is the intrinsic value of the European Union integration process. But one cannot go without the other. And I believe that in the region of the Western Balkans, those two processes should go hand in hand. Now let me remind all of you who were here this morning. There was one interesting question which I don't remember received an adequate response at the first panel we had this morning, where three presidents spoke about also a similar topic. The question went something like, should NATO further enlarge because it may decrease efficiency? Or there are some pundits who suggest that might be the problem of NATO, should enlarge too much. I believe that NATO remains global backbone of security, and I think that NATO should enlarge as much as possible, because given that there are countries who aspire to become members of NATO. Internally, the solution is something which is already an important topic of NATO summit, such as smart defense, pooling and sharing, making system works from the logistical point of view in a more efficient way. But from the security point of view, it is indispensable to have countries which belong to the Western Balkans, all of us who want to become part of NATO, inside NATO. I think that contributes to the overall security, because Western Balkans has progressed a lot, as Mr. Weber has reminded us. But it is not that issues are all off the table. There are still certain outstanding issues, and I believe that NATO integration process and enlargement of NATO, it is a cornerstone of the stability in our region, and therefore remains important, as Western Balkans need to be kept in focus for the time being still. It is even more important given all the global changes, and given that some other regions tend to acquire more focus. With regards to June's hopefully positive decision of the European General Affairs Council, actually, and the commencement of the accession talks. We hope to have sometime by the end of June. I think that we have shown commitment, we have shown a lot of energy, and we've invested best possible efforts in the past year or so since Montenegro received candidate status back in 2010 on the European Council's summit. And there's been a number of issues we had to deal with, from our efforts to improve the rule of law, reform public administration, pass legislation and fight against corruption, organized crime, reach out towards civil sector, reach out towards media, enable media friendly environment for the freedom of expression, freedom of thoughts, dealing with the issue of internally displaced people, building administrative capacities within our parliament to exercise more quality supervisory role. Those were all the benchmarks we had to deal with. And what matters also is that these two streams of integration processes, NATO and EU, are actually quite compatible. Because dealing with the rule of law, dealing with the democratization of the society, making it more transparent, and so on, fighting against organized crime and corruption, it is quite compatible because it is a necessary precondition for both integration processes, though dynamically it may go different way. So dealing with European benchmarks, I think it has made Montenegro society more open, more transparent. I think we are now running through the stage which is incredibly important for the future of setting new sort of values in Montenegro. And therefore, I'm looking forward to the next round, to the next stage, which is accession talks. We are already getting ourselves prepared by setting up accession architecture, picking people who will be in the chair of holding those talks, and so on and so on. And we're focusing also on those chapters which very early will be open, those chapters dealing with judiciary reforms, fundamental rights and so on, 23 and 24. And I very much appreciate the role of Commissioner Füle and the role of the European Commission that has devised a new model, new approach for the Western Balkan countries to lift all the concerns that anybody can have in terms that whether we are ready to join the European Union, given that one of the biggest challenges is to deal with corruption, organized crime, fundamental rights. And I should also agree with the assessment on the region. Year after, or year before, a year ago rather, when you look at the track record of the Western Balkans from the European point of view, I think there's been some positive, major and positive developments. And I think it is the momentum we need to keep in order to really pass this point in time, which I'm sure is critical because we are passing the point of no return. I'm sure that ahead there is visible, already tangible European perspective for the countries in the region. There's more to be done, but I'm sure that opening accession talks for Montenegro after Croatia basically is inside. Serbia getting candidate status, holding high dialogue with Macedonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina sorting out certain issues, Kosovo getting feasibility study, regain stability in Albania. These are all good news, and we need to keep the momentum, and that's why my argument is that Western Balkans deserve to be still in focus.
Thank you very much, Ivan, and pleasure to be back in Bratislava. And very happy to be at the same panel with you, Primož. I think that your introductory statement has really shown why indeed Montenegro is having the best chance to be the next one. European Union opens the accession negotiations. And I hope that June and still the Danish presidency will be able to deliver on that after you. Now, 4 points, maybe not in the perfect order, but points I feel very strongly about. The first one is continuation, the second one is credibility, the third one is transformation power, and the fourth one is bigger picture. Those are the four elements I'm trying to build a management process. What I mean by continuity. If I look a year back and the discussion within the European Union and the peak of the economic crisis, the crisis of the confidence, particularly as far as the Eurozone, it's quite amazing that at the time people are talking about the possibility of some countries leaving the European Union or the Eurozone. We have indeed so many countries, aspirant countries and candidate countries who still want to become European Union member states. And I think that this is the element we should not forget. And I think this is extremely important that despite some calls from certain forums, we have not messed it up. The enlargement on one side and the challenges the European Union is facing. Because the enlargement is not a part of the problem, it's a part of the solution. There are many problems in the European Union. Many of them we created ourselves, and others are imposed on us by globalization. And I strongly believe that the enlargement is a way not only to tackle but to address the most effectively the effects of the globalization. The globalization meaning you hardly could build a wall around you. You are as exposed as any other point on our smaller and smaller planet. Second, credibility. They ask me sometimes why you are not providing more money for public campaign because there's not really that huge support as far as public opinion among the member states for the enlargement. And I would always say the key is not in spending the money for some kind of artificial campaign. The key is to make it credible, the process again. The key is to put the enlargement policy where it belongs, and it has been the most successful external policy of the European Union. There has been a number of the credibility issues. The good thing is that we have learned our lesson, and that Croatia is the first country sort of going through the what I would call new cycle of enlargement. It's not about us changing the rules of the game, so we have to change the European Union acquis, but it changed the way how to adapt that acquis by the candidate country. Opening, closing benchmark, track record, Croatia has experienced that. Montenegro is going to be, I'm confident about it, it's going to be the first country which in addition to that will go through a new experience. And opening the chapters 23 and 24, we're talking about judiciary, fundamental rights, chapter 23, we're talking about judiciary, security, as far as the chapter 24. We're talking about the soft acquis here. We're talking about the two chapters which are directly linked to the values the European Union is based on. We're talking about the two issues, two chapters, where it's important not only ticking the boxes, whether the legislation has been approved, the institutions established, but where you need also to see the track record, whether that legislation and the institutions actually deliver on the expectations, not only expectation of the Brussels, but expectation of the people. We're talking about the rule of law, we're talking about the independence of justice. So Montenegro is going to be the first one. We're reopening those two chapters at the beginning, and we close those two chapters at the end of the accession process. In addition to the opening and closing benchmark, introducing interim benchmark, which is important because we bringing the member states more in this negotiating process, and it is important for the credibility. I don't want the member states and their citizens to ask at the end of the process, is the country really up to? I want that impression and that knowledge to be there, to be built throughout that process through a more active involvement. Enlargement has always been both technical and political project, and definitely the one who calls for a more of a political spirit of this process. The credibility works both ways, and I have alluded to that. It means not only the candidate country delivering in a credible way, but also us delivering on the promises. Whenever the homework is being done, then the decision by the member states should follow to move the country forward. The transformation power of enlargement is very much connected with the credibility. We look at Croatia 10 years ago when it applied for the European Union membership, and look at the different Croatia today. We're talking about the Southeast Europe, about the Western Balkans in this way. So we're talking about the countries in transition. We're talking about the countries which have to deal with not only totalitarian past, but the nationalism. That cannot be done successfully outside the framework of the European Union enlargement. And through those certified chapters, through this innovative and more credible approach to enlargement, we are becoming a part of the transition of both the countries and region. And point number 4, bigger picture. Ivan, you were saying about the magnetic power of the European Union. But if you look around the European Union, I would say the competition of the model of governance is bigger and bigger. The competition is there. And it's not, you cannot just sit on your hands and believe that there will be more and more countries by the virtue of that magnetism sort of wanting to join the European Union. They have other options, more easier one. That's the first point. The second point is we are ignoring the fact that the 19th and 20th century were not really a normal century from the sense of human development. What I'm saying is that in those 2 centuries, a small state, mid-sized country, could take advantage of the Industrial Revolution and then play a leading role in the world. You're referring to the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth. In the 21st century, time of globalization, nothing like that is possible. So size matters again. Is 500 million enough to be able to compete with China and India and withstand the pressure of those who might not have the same set of values, but they have gas and oil. I'm saying it might not be enough. We have to be more creative in looking beyond borders. And the last point, we were talking both about the synergy of the EU and NATO enlargement. I felt that synergy a couple of years ago when we were talking about the Central Europe. I think we are lacking the same synergy at this point of the time, the synergy which would have a positive effect on the whole region. Because, and I worked, you made a point, I worked in North Atlantic Council. At that time we were talking about Article 5, we were talking about defense, we were talking about defense in terms of soldiers, territory, and so on. Do I have a feeling that now I'm working in a different field? No, I don't. I think I'm working in the field of defending our values and through the enlargement and through the neighborhood policy, an active neighborhood policy. We actually deliver not only on the security alone, but also defense element. So a closer interaction between the European Union and NATO will have a positive impact not only on the region we're discussing, but also our neighborhood, whether it's east or south.
Well, thank you. I think we've had a good panel which has just ended, and I think the main message has been that EU enlargement process and NATO enlargement process should continue, of course based on merits of any country that participates in the process, but it is highly important because of the future of the Western Balkans. Those two integration processes are compatible processes and share to some extent the goals, but as one provides for more security, the other provides with the process of political reforms and the process of building of functional economy. And those two should be attached one to the other, because Western Balkans region has progressed a lot, but focus needs to be kept, as there is certain outstanding issues which are still on the table, and we have to continue dealing with those. Therefore, the main message is that for the countries such as Montenegro, continuing our road towards NATO and opening accession talks in June with the EU is of indispensable importance. We're talking about the efforts to meet as many requirements with regards to chapters 23 and 24. So we are talking about the need to pass certain amendments which will further strengthen the rule of law principles, building in order to strengthen independence of judiciary and so on. And based on the Venice Commission's views, we have prepared as government and initiated the process of constitutional amendments. Unfortunately, opposition political parties think that it is a chance to discuss some other matters which are not related to the independence of judiciary. We believe that those two streams of action should be kept separated in a way that independence of judiciary is something that brings us closer, one step closer towards the European Union membership. But on the other hand, some issues which are more which bear more fundamental character and internal issues related to Montenegro is something that we should continue having political dialogue on. Of course, as Prime Minister, I bear certain responsibility for both of the things, and I will invest certain efforts into the political dialogue over any issue with the opposition parties to try to come to a compromise which will open the door for the European future of Montenegro. I still hope that there is enough commitment by everyone, not only to talk about European integration, but to really do something in favor of the European future of Montenegro. It is an initiative that has come from the government, and European Commission, as you know, prepared positive recommendation even in October last year, and European Council decided that talks may start in June based on the special report of the European Commission on the implementation of reforms. Changing the constitution is a complicated matter for any country, not only Montenegro, and probably along the road there may be some
other things that we should do and amend constitution in order to be ready for the full-fledged membership of the EU. At this point, I think that European Commission will stick to the positive recommendation they gave in October, and changing of the constitution can only facilitate further implementation of reforms in the chapters 23 and 24. But Montenegro will participate to the summit through various formats, as ISAF contributor, also as aspirant country. And we believe that Chicago summit, though not the summit of enlargement, will still reiterate the open door policy, acknowledge Montenegrin progress, and also point into the direction of the possibility that, based on the merits, countries such as Montenegro could hope to get invitation to join NATO at some of the coming summits. So we understand, we know that Chicago summit is not supposed to be about enlargement. It's going to be about Afghanistan, about smart defense, about further modernization of the NATO. But it is important, it is vital for all the aspiring countries that there is words of encouragement, that there is a good language that will acknowledge progress and point to the direction of eventual membership.